Hello, welcome to a one-on-one interview with Drexel CCI Corporate Partner, Penn Mutual. I'm Chelsea Lowe, Program Coordinator for the Corporate Partners Program, and I'm very excited to introduce Penn Mutual today. Since 1847, Penn Mutual has been a leader and innovator in the life insurance industry in America. Today, we have Halish Patney, a third-year data science major at Drexel CCI, who will be interviewing Mark Dash, VP of Solutions Delivery and Chief Technology Officer at Penn Mutual. Halish, thank you so much, and I'll hand it over to you.
So, hi Mark, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time out. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Palash. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. So my first question would be, if you can just introduce yourself, let us know about your role and some of your everyday responsibilities.
Sure. So as Chief Technology Officer at Penn Mutual, so Penn Mutual is a life insurance company based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I've been there about 11 years at this point. And I'm responsible. I originally started out with responsibilities for all of application development and application integration, and then have expanded into the infrastructure areas as well. So that includes cloud computing, networking, telephony, all those sorts of things as well. So I kind of cover both software development and the operational infrastructure side of the company. So, day-to-day responsibilities vary a lot, from projects that we're working on, technology evaluations, personnel type things, and a lot of strategic work around, both at my level, a lot of what we have to think about isn't just technology, but really how do we apply technology to a business need that we have, or a consumer need. In our case, they would be, potential policyholders or existing policyholders, or financial professionals that we're dealing with. How do we service their needs effectively? And of course, all companies at this point in time are technology companies, and there's a big focus on, digital business and how to make, especially for life insurance, doing business with consumers in that space has traditionally been a fairly high friction type interaction. And so a lot of focus is on how to make that easier with consumer expectations today are, what you see on like Amazon. People want to get information quickly, make decisions quickly, get their products delivered quickly. So we're in the same boat. That's sort of the type of consumer interaction that we're compared against.
Interesting. So building up on that, you said that you are integrating more and more technology in your workflows. Can you give some examples of that?
Yeah, I think that the biggest example that we've done over the last couple of years has been what I'll broadly call our digital business initiative, which we call the accelerated client experience. We can call it ACE internally. And that was really to digitize the whole purchasing experience of life insurance, and make it easier for the consumer and for the financial professional to go through that process and do it all online. So the ability to, fill out your application online, we have a lot of automation around machine learning tied into our underwriting process. So we can actually underwrite instantaneously about 30 to 40% of our applications, which greatly speeds up the process. The goal is to be what we call fluidless, so you don't have to get an exam, give blood, all that sort of stuff. We source a lot of third-party data in making determinations around your level of health that we use to price the policy. So all that is digitized. And then on the other side of it, your policy is e-delivered, you e-sign it, you e-pay for it, and then you have a servicing portal website that you can go to, and you can keep track of your policy. You can, pay premiums, you can move money around, you can take a loan out, whatever it might be that you need to do. So our goal was to make all of those pieces digitized. which I think has been a differentiator for us, because a lot of companies, like, they might have an electronic application capability, or they might have an electronic delivery capability. I think we're pretty far ahead in terms of underwriting and using machine learning in that space. But putting it all together, so the whole soup to nuts is a digital business capability, has been good for us, especially now. So in the current state that we're in, so we launched that about 2 years ago, and before the pandemic, we had about 60% of our business coming through the electronic channel through ACE, and 40% was traditional, which is sort of a paper type model. We're currently at over 80% of our applications coming in through the digital channel, and it's been going up week to week. We've been tracking it. And we do think that this will be a permanent shift, because at the end of the day, it is easier to use the digital channel. It's faster for customers to get their policies. It's faster for financial professionals to complete the sales process. So I think once they start using, even some that, were kind of like used to paper, maybe they'd been in the business a long time and they didn't really want to change, or they felt that their clientele didn't want to deal with digital interfaces. It's a very sort of one-to-one sales process. I think once they make the shift, they won't go back. So I think that application of technology has been a really big benefit for us.
It's very interesting. So, what you mentioned, the pandemic, how has that affected, working at Penn Mutual? How has that affected your lifestyle?
Yeah, for us, that was a huge shift in some ways, and a very easy shift in others. So we have one home office in Horsham, PA, like I said, and pretty much everyone's on site. So we were not a global, virtual, distributed type of company. Everybody was in the office. So, and we viewed that as a benefit, because, you talk to people face to face, you had meetings, everybody showed up at the meeting. That was the culture. It was very on site. And frankly, we were very bad at virtual meetings. If somebody would call into a meeting, we'd forget that they were there. We just weren't good with the etiquette around that. Now, we did put in a bunch of collaboration tools, such as this one, like Zoom and some other things, a few weeks before the pandemic really hit, just kind of by luck. And what happened then is we actually evacuated the building before the state order came through to do so. And so then all of a sudden, the next day, everybody's home. And I would say that, tools such as Zoom, people really adopted them. They're easy to use. And we kind of got into the mode of interacting with each other virtually very quickly. And some people in that regard find it better. Like, I find it better, because I think, instead of me running around the building trying to find somebody, I can just check and see if they're there and send out a chat message to them. If we need to assemble a meeting real quickly, I can do it in a matter of seconds in Zoom versus, so in some ways it's gotten better, and, the technology's to the point where it's almost as good as face-to-face. So, that side of it has been, it's been a big transition for us, but I also think it's been a very rapid and successful transition. Personally, I live close to the office, and I never considered myself a work at home type person. I like the interaction, and I kind of like going to work, doing my work there, and then coming home and have them separate. I would say, though, now 9 weeks into it, I'm pretty comfortable here. I feel, like I actually have more time, even though my commute wasn't real long. I still feel like I just seem to have extra time. I personally have more time to focus on some of my work, because when I'm in the office, in my role, a lot of people always want to talk to me, and there's a lot of drive-bys, so I'm in the office, somebody will pop in, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? I just want to review this. so there was a lot of interruptions. Like people think electronically you get a lot of interruptions because you have text messages, emails, chat messages, all this stuff popping up all the time. But you can ignore that stuff if you want. But if somebody walks into your office and wants to talk to you, you can't really ignore them. So for me, I can turn a lot of that off and actually focus on what I want to focus on for, an hour or two, whatever it might be. So to me, it's somewhat easier for me to differentiate, that kind of work schedule. So I think that's been a benefit. That said, I'm at this point ready to go back.
Thank you for sharing that. So you also mentioned machine learning for your policy underwriting, right?
Right.
What kind of related to that? What kind of jobs does Penn Mutual hire recent graduates for, and do you hire recent grads for that division?
Yeah, we do. I mean, so we've been in the co-op program for several years, and we use that as a good pipeline to bring bright students in, have them work with us. One of the things that we do that a lot of the students like is we treat you just as a new grad. So if you come into our co-op program, you get put on a team. We're organized in agile teams, and you come in and you do development work along with the rest of the team. And the quicker you pick it up, the more work you get. So it's a good experience for like, well, what's it like to be a developer in a commercial company? So that's how we handle that. And then on the hiring side, so we hire for software developers, network engineers, DevOps type people that kind of, work around deployment automation and build automation and continuous integration and those kind of things. So, and we actually do a fair amount of that. We'd like to bring in, new grads as much as we can, because they're bringing in, new ideas. They've been more exposed maybe to some of the academic side on the research end of it in terms of what's coming down the pike and stuff. So it kind of helps us keep in front a little bit, bringing in people who kind of maybe look at things a little differently than some of the established staff would.
Makes sense. So what kind of coding languages / environments does Penn Mutual use?
Yeah, so we've been a Java shop. When I started, it was sort of a mix of .NET and Java, but the .NET stuff has kind of faded away, and we consolidated on Java. Now, more recently, over the last probably 18 months, we've picked up a lot of Python, specifically in the machine learning arena. That's sort of the language of choice. We also do some Scala development. So our cloud provider of choice is AWS. And although that's not a programming language, that is kind of a different paradigm, because you have to understand how to incorporate the services into the code that you write. And some concepts of like serverless computing that we're leveraging, if you come in as a .NET developer, a Java developer, and you're used to just working in that stack, it's very different. So I almost would group that as another language or platform that we use heavily, and we're migrating a lot from on-prem to cloud-based computing, both as like infrastructure as a service and platform as a service models.
You also mentioned Scala. Do you guys use Hadoop?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, in a couple. We generally use Spark for on-prem, which is Hadoop under the covers of that. And then on the cloud side, we're using a service called Glue, which again, under that is Spark and under that's Hadoop. So different abstractions of it. Yeah, there's a couple areas where we do what I would consider like elastic compute type work. Most of our demand models are fairly flat, but we do a lot around investment and hedging type models on the finance side. And that requires heavy compute for a short amount of time. So, that's one area where we use distributed models in. And the other one is in analytics. So we collect a lot of data across the organization. Like ACE is an example. There's a lot of information related to the types of policies that are flowing through, the underwriting ratings that they get, all of the data that comes in with them related to the proposed insured and all. So all that data runs through a pretty heavy analytics apparatus that runs at AWS. And there we have a lot of glue jobs that go off and sort of crunch that stuff. So there are two areas where we actually do have bursty workloads with a fair amount of data.
That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. So kind of building on that, what kind of skills, like technical skills, do you look for in co-op students or recent grads?
For technical skills, we usually just look for the kind of the core understanding of well, for us, it's Java and Python. So just, nothing fancy, just basic programming skills that way. Understanding of, some level of database understanding. We don't do a whole lot with relational databases anymore. We run a bunch, but we don't do a lot of new development there. We use distributed databases like Mongo and Cassandra primarily. Most students don't have much familiarity with that. But some level of database understanding and the base programming language, and then data structures that correspond with that. That's sort of like the base stuff. And then we look at what you've done. So a lot of students say they're coming in with either other co-ops or internships or other experience, even, back in high school and whatnot, that they had done different project work and stuff. So we look at all that as well as to what sort of technical skills they might be coming in with. A lot of people are playing around with some, different aspects of AI as well. So they might have a little bit of knowledge around that too. So, for us, we're not expected to come in as an expert. It's more, do you have some of the fundamental understandings of, programming languages, how it's applied, what some of the support systems around it are.
That makes sense. So kind of related to that again, what are the non-technical skills that you look for?
Yeah, I think, a lot of it revolves around like curiosity is one thing. When people that are interested in learning new things. I'm a big believer in finding people that want to understand like how things work under the covers. So, I'll tend to ask a lot of questions about not necessarily like, well, how do you write a line of code that does this? But, given a line of code that does this, why does it work? Or how does it actually do that? So it's sort of like if you understand some of the fundamental concepts, it really doesn't matter what the programming language is. You kind of understand what's going on behind the scenes. So, we look for folks that are curious that way, that don't want to just, Google and copy and paste and, hey, it works, but they want to actually understand, well, why does it work and what's it actually doing? That's one thing. We're big on collaboration. And we also want people to bring ideas to the table. So people that are willing to ask questions, challenge things, offer suggestions on how things can be done differently, are the kind of people that we want. So we want people that are going to engage and not really worry about, levels or that person's a senior developer. So I'm not going to ask a dumb question, stuff like that. We want people that are going to ask a lot of questions and get us to think, about, well, yeah, maybe there are are different ways to look at things. So there's some of the softer skills, that we look for. I guess people that are collaborative, outgoing, and kind of curious about things.
Thank you for sharing that again.
Yeah.
So, how would you describe like the working culture at Penn Mutual?
I always describe the company as friendly, if I have to sum it up in one word. So the industry, life insurance industry is a big industry with a lot of big companies in it, but we have a mid-sized company feel. I won't say a small company. I've worked at companies of all different sizes, so small companies are fun. They move very quickly. They tend to lack a lot of maybe some of the rigor and stuff that a financial services company would need. We are in a regulated industry. We're dealing with, with state and federal, regulations around insurance, around finance, all that. So there's overhead, if you will, that goes with that. So, and in big companies, you're kind of just a cog in a big wheel. It's, you're in a big multinational company. You can make an impact in your local department or something, but overall the company's much bigger than you could really impact. So we're that mid-sized feel where you can have, what you do can have a big impact on how the company does overall, which also, imposes a lot of responsibility on people because you can make things good or you can make things not so good, so you have to be mature, which is probably another area of the soft skills that we look for. You're dealing with, people in the company really do appreciate the products that we build, that we produce and sell, and the value that they bring to people. And we have an annual meeting, and we'll usually have somebody will come in and talk about somebody who had a tragedy or whatever, but our products enabled them to get through that and help in other ways. So, people feel there's an importance. We're not just making, widgets. We're producing things that really keep families safe, and protect against, things like that. So there's a lot of like loyalty, I think, from the staff, and I think it's bi-directional. So the company as well is loyal back, which I think is harder to find today in a lot of places. It's kind of the job versus career, forget about the gig economy, but just, so a byproduct of that is a lot of folks in the organization have been here a long time. They stay, they like it, they stay. So we have a lot of, empirical, knowledge in the organization. And that's good. And when you blend that in with new people that are bringing in new ideas, you get a good mix of, people that understand sort of how things were and people that understand how things need to be. And part of my job is probably to balance that out and, get to the to be, but get there in a safe way that doesn't, jeopardize operational stability and things like that.
Makes sense. So, last question. What's your favorite part about working at Penn Mutual?
I think my favorite part is, the people that I work with there. I would say that, the people that are even my direct reports are also my friends, so it's a supportive kind of organization, and we all try and help each other out through there. So I think that's a big positive. I also like the fact that from a technology perspective, we have a lot of autonomy in what we do, what kind of technologies we choose to use. We have a lot of business impact, or what I would call a seat at the table when we talk about, well, this is a technology that we think can help the business, and here's how we think it can help. those sorts of inputs are welcomed. So we're not really viewed just as an operational function that, the network has to work and email has to flow and, all this, the websites have to be up. It's really like, well, we can do, and again, it's, the underwriting work that we did, some of the machine learning models is a good example of that, because that was a pretty risky, maybe not risky, but it was something that a lot of companies were staying away from, because you have a lot of things when you get into AI models around, explainability and bias and things like that, insurance companies are not crazy about. Like, we're in the job of controlling risk and assessing risk. We don't want to take unnecessary risks, so you have to find ways to make that work, and then you have to make sure everybody's comfortable with that. But we were able to do that. And now, if we look at it today, we're able to process volumes of applications and policies that we would not be able to work with if we had to do that all manually. So those kind of ideas and bringing change to the company, I think are easier to do than they probably are in some of our peer companies. So for me, that's fun as a technology person. That's one of the things that keeps you interested, Yeah.
Even just hearing about machine learning applications, I'm very excited just hearing about it. So can't imagine working on it must be a lot of fun.
And it was fun because we were using it in a pretty significant way. Like, you see a lot of companies might use it for like marketing or something where, the accuracy can be okay and you can still get benefit from it. In our case, it's like, well, we need a very high accuracy, we need to be able to, just the bar was a lot higher. And when we started looking around, it was tough to find people that had that sort of appreciation that, this is it's almost like if you used it in the medical space, like, your model.
I worked at a hospital for both of my co-ops, Thomas Jefferson Hospital.
Yeah.
And I worked on machine learning models, machine learning models. So that's why I was very excited hearing about that, because it's basically the other end of it.
Right.
So
right. So you can't have like a 70% model there that makes the wrong decision. It just, but in a lot of people apply it in those sort of problem spaces because it's safer. And it's good enough, when you're trying to apply it to an area that you really need to be precise in, it's harder, but that also makes it fun, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
okay,
yes, go ahead.
Go ahead, no.
I just wanted to say thank you both for making time and being flexible with us today. Great job on interviewing. And Mark, thank you so much for sharing more about Penn Mutual. We'll definitely be excited to hear more and learn more about your company and opportunities for co-op and full-time positions there. But just wanted to say thank you to both of you and great job.
Well, thank you. Nice talking to you both. Best of luck in your studies.